Hello and welcome to the At Odds Pod. We are back. You will notice it is only two of us today, myself and Jake Ashton. Boz is otherwise engaged. Jake, how are you doing? How did you find that City win in the Champions League this week?
Yeah, really good, thank you, mate. It was pretty straightforward, to be honest. Didn't have to get out of first gear, as you know yourself from seeing it. But those games, you've got to get the win, and Haaland scoring yet again is it's getting a bit of a joke now, isn't it?
He's just too good. He's too good. Look, we'll get stuck into the action now. If you're listening, if you're watching, you know the drill by now. You know how the At Odds Pod works. We're three friends, admittedly two today, who all work in the gambling industry, and we talk about our best bets for the weekend across a variety of different sports. And it's been some disappointing news this week with the Ben Eubank fight. That seems to be in a bit of flux at the moment, and probably won't go ahead from what I've read. I don't know if you've heard anything different.
Yeah, I've read the same, and we've obviously got the Joshua Fury fight unconfirmed now too, which was, I think we always thought that it wasn't going to go ahead. Let's be honest, the both of them, it's very political, that fight. But yeah, it's just gutting for British boxing at a time where I think British boxing needs these big fights, because it's getting to a point where it's slowing down a little bit for me.
Yeah, it does, and especially when I'm not really a big MMA guy, but when you watch the UFC and they get big fights happening all the time, you can't duck people in the UFC, and it's frustrating to see in boxing. I mean, we had it with Mayweather and Pacquiao for the best part of half a decade, and eventually it happened, but it's too late. And even recently, the third of the Golovkin Canelo trilogy, too late, really. It's quite frustrating. But anyway, look, we'll get stuck into the football now. We've got a handful of games on Saturday, no early kickoff, quite annoyingly. A few games on Sunday, including a very late 7 p.m. game that we'll touch on in a bit, and obviously a Monday night football between Forest and Villa to get stuck into as well. But first and foremost, we've got to talk about the game of the weekend, which simply has to be Arsenal versus Liverpool, 4:30 on Sunday. This is a massive game, isn't it, Jake?
It's a huge game, massive already for the title race. Listen, going into the first week of October, if you'd have told me at the start of the season that Arsenal would be top of the league, flying in amazing form, I'd have laughed in your face. But this is what it is. Arsenal are flying. They are in great form. Last weekend's performance against Spurs shocked me massively. I thought that it'd be a tighter game than that. It'd be a tough game, but Arsenal seemed to be all over him, and they completely dominated the game. And dare I say that they'll do the same here against Liverpool. Now, they've struggled in the past against Liverpool, but it's a different Liverpool team. It's a different Arsenal team. And I slightly give Arsenal the edge in this one, Sam.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth when I've decided who's going to win this one, because Arsenal, top of the league, deservedly top of the league, to be honest. They've only conceded 8 goals all season, so averaging a goal a game. I think there's only one team better than that, which weirdly is Everton. But this is a team who defensively very, very strong. But I do feel like they give people a chance. Like, they almost let Spurs back in. They let United back in when they really shouldn't have done a couple of weeks ago. And Liverpool, although this doesn't look like a vintage team, and I do wonder whether maybe the cycle of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool is starting to come to an end, I do think they're going to give them opportunities. And you can't give a team with Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, even Firmino and potentially Nunes chances either. So when I looked at the odds, I'll quickly get them up here. I just thought, wow, it's not often you get Liverpool. I think it was 33-20. And then I looked over at Arsenal and I saw Arsenal's price is just under 2-1 as well. Like, there's a great argument that there's great value on offer for both sides, which doesn't really make sense. But for me, I've not gone with your side of a team winning this. I just think both teams will score. I think that's the bet I would make. It's 4-7, so I'm not going to tip that here because I think that's a little bit too stinky for me to be tipping on here. But instead, at 11-4, I'd go for both teams to score in the first half. We've seen Liverpool come out the gates quick when they need to previously. And Arsenal this season, if there's one thing that's kind of defined them, it has been getting that early goal. So I could see both Arsenal and Liverpool scoring the first half quite easily, and at just under 3-1. If I'm going to have a bet on this game, which, to be honest, I might not. This might be one I just sit back and enjoy. But that would be where I'd go. And at 11-4, I do think there's definitely some value there.
Yeah, I've picked Arsenal and both teams to score in this one at 10-3. What I will also slightly look at now, I think this is the best time ever to blow my own trumpet here. But last week I had a 16-1 winner in the Arsenal Spurs game, which was Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, Harry Kane, both to score and Arsenal to win. Now, looking at the odds for this weekend's game, if you go for Jesus and Salah to score any time and Arsenal to win, you're getting odds of 20-1. So, again, it's a massive price for a market in which I know exactly. I think it's a game where if Liverpool score, let's be honest, Salah's going to be there or thereabouts, even if it is like a penalty, like Spurs got. It'll be Salah taking it. So 20-1's a big price, and we may well get a winner in that bet again from last week's winner, Jesus and Kane, Arsenal to win. This week, Jesus and Salah, Arsenal to win at 20-1. So it's value. It's a massive odds bet, that I think.
Jake, this is me. I'm getting my phone up here. The second we stop recording this, I'm straight onto a bookmaker of my choice, and I'm going to nail that at 20-1, because that is, especially after your heater last week, you're on good form. So I'm definitely up for that. Should we go on to Saturday now?
Yeah, let's move on to Saturday. So before we did start recording this episode, we looked at Saturday's fixtures, and without being too harsh, it's a bit stinky, isn't it? Let's be honest. We've got the late kickoff. Brighton-Tottenham is arguably the game of the day. Just looking at the other games on Saturday, we've got Bournemouth-Leicester, Chelsea-Wolves, City-Southampton, Newcastle-Brentford, all 3 o'clock games. And then, yeah, like I said, Brighton v Spurs. Which game looks like the best game to get a bet on for you, Farley?
I mean, from a betting perspective, I'd go City-Southampton. But Brighton-Tottenham is the only one that really has any interest as a viewer for me, if I'm absolutely honest there. Not having an early kickoff, I understand why they're doing it, because United are playing in the late game on Thursday in the Europa. But a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday, like this Saturday's a weekend where I don't have any plans, and nothing beats a weekend where you got no plans, just watching that early kickoff. Or even if you do have plans, you go into a game, get in the pub early doors, watch that one first. Like, it sets the weekend off for me, an early kickoff in the Premier League. And to be honest, we'll talk about the 7 o'clock thing later on Sunday. I'm actually so disappointed there's not an early game. I'd rather just bump any of the others a bit earlier, would have done me. But either way, it has to be Man City Southampton. And the bet I've gone for is Kyle Walker-Peters to get booked at 9-2. Now, this is a really risky one, because he hasn't actually got booking all season. And what we 7-8 games in, depending on the team. I think Southampton 8 games in. But he's going to be up against, assuming. So I've looked at who scored. I've checked out a few people's kind of predictions. Some think Grealish will play, some don't. After Wednesday night, I think Grealish has to play. I thought he was by far the best player on the park. Everyone was talking about Haaland, but that to me, maybe one of the best I've actually ever seen Grealish play. I thought he was so dominant. Yep. Him and Bernardo had it was almost like telekinesis. It's incredible. And he's such a threat down that left side, which I think Kyle Walker-Peters. Now, this is a game Southampton have to win. I think the manager could well lose his job if they don't. So, for me, a hugely important game. They can't let it get away from them. Jack Grealish in incredible form, and when he runs at you, he's so dangerous. So 9-2, I'll take Kyle Walker-Peters on for that. But I would say this to any viewers, any listeners: this is one. Don't bet this today when you hear this. Bet this at what time? What time is that kickoff? 3 p.m. Bet this at after the team news. They're both playing. They'll both be matched up against each other, or even still maybe wait 10-20 minutes into the game, get a feel for how the game's going, and then put it on. But I think Kyle Walker-Peters booking is definitely the way I'd look. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, just to focus on that game a little bit more, I tried to look into odds and see if there is any value. the Haaland phenomenon is crazy. 9-2 he has to score a hat-trick in this game, which is it's an absolute madness. But we've seen Southampton concede 9 goals in the past under Hasenhuttl. So could we see it again? Maybe. City, they'll tend to be a team where they go 5 goals up and then they'll just knock it around the back for a bit. They won't go for more. So it's an interesting game, that one. My pick for Saturday's games is the late kickoff, Brighton against Tottenham. I'm not sure what it is in particular, but everything is just focusing me on Brighton for this game now. They've obviously got a new manager coming, and they've gone to Anfield last week and they've absolutely terrorised Liverpool's defence for a long portion of the game. And they're going to come up against the Tottenham side, who defensively looked all over the place against Arsenal last week. They've struggled really in a 0-0 draw in the Champions League in midweek, in a game where a lot of us thought that they'd just go on and win that easily. And in this game, Brighton to win and both teams to score at 4-1 does just look like a massive price. Even Brighton to win looks like a big price. And in all honesty, I'm going to be picking that later on too in our weekend double. But there's just a massive price there, Brighton, and 17-10 you get in for them just to win, which is crazy. And 4-1 for them to win and both teams to score it. It's mad considering Brighton concede chances, and especially in that Liverpool game, we saw the style of football that Brighton will have. It's just going to be attack. And I think Brighton fans are going to be happy about this. Obviously, missing Graham Potter, it will have been hard for them losing Potter to Chelsea, but now it just looks like a brand new, fresh Brighton team, and they can just kick on. And can they challenge for Europe, do you reckon, Farley?
No, I think not. I think not. There's, what are they, 4th in the Premier League going into the weekend? Yeah, 4th. You got Chelsea kind of a point behind. United, I still think there's enough about United that makes me think they'll be in the Europa conversation for sure. Newcastle look far improved. You still got Liverpool to sort of come good, and let's be honest, you certainly can't back against Liverpool kind of putting a run of games together. And for me, it's Brighton are the team that lose out. Because I think the problem is, I was hugely impressed by that Liverpool game. I was really worried that after Potter left, and obviously it seemed like the entirety of his backroom staff left as well. I thought that could be curtains for them, but they were good. They were really good. But I do wonder, you often see with teams when a new manager comes in, say if they were quite good defensively before, which Brighton were, you'll see the new manager often comes in, adds like a new dimension to their play, but then over like a couple of months, the sort of defensive strength will wane a bit. We've seen that before. Like whenever a manager follows Sam Allardyce, they always do well to start with, and then they can't defend after about 6 months. And I do wonder whether that could happen with Brighton. And if they start letting in goals, they're going to have a serious problem. Because as good as they are going forward, and I mean, Trossard looks incredible, to be honest, right now. Yeah. I do worry for them. But I think I would absolutely love it if Brighton got Europa League this year. I think that'd be such an amazing thing for that club, for that fan base, for the town. And it'd be good to see, just break it up. It's so boring, European competition, in these early stages at least, when you see the same old team names 24/7. So get them in Europa, the Conference League, whatever. Would love to see that. How about you? Do you reckon they could do it?
I think if there's any team to break it this year, Brighton look like the most equipped now.
Over Newcastle?
West Ham, obviously. Yeah, Newcastle maybe. But I think Newcastle do pull out results where you just think, how have they managed to not win that game, or how have they drawn that game? Last week's result, obviously, against Fulham was just a bit of a madness. Fulham went down to 10 men early, lost Mitrovic for injury. Did that change anything there? I think Newcastle just need a run. They need a massive run to push on, really. But yeah, I can't. If it is anything, it'll be confidence impossible. There's the builders. The builders are in now. Love that.
You don't need to tell me if there's what sounds like a large vibrating sound coming from your bedroom. Yeah, you do you, mate. You do you. That's a good time to move on to Sunday's action. We got 4 games. Arsenal, Liverpool, 4:30. We've already talked about that, haven't we? But we've also got Palace, Leeds, which I think that's going to be a lot of fun. West Ham, Fulham. Less said about that, the better. And then 7:00, this Everton versus Man United game, and we'll talk about your pick in a minute, Jake. But 7 p.m. It's been moved because of the Europa League taking place on Thursday night, and BT wanting to show this game. What do you think about a game on a Sunday night? Because I think for fans who go to games, and let's be honest, I think they are the most important people. I think this is an absolute disgrace. But for any of us that are sat at home with our armchair, with our Sky remotes, a Sunday night game actually really does appeal, and I hate myself for saying it. But I don't know what you make of that before we talk about the game itself.
I agree from both points of view, really. I think a Sunday night game at home, watching on TV, I think it's going to be class, this game. I think the fans will be up for it. I know despite the horrendous time at 7:00 on a Sunday, them Everton fans are going to be really up for this game. But I struggle to see why it is at 7:00 at night. I mean, looking at the other Sunday games, you've got 2 games kicking off at 2:00 on Sunday. Palace, Leeds, West Ham, Fulham. Surely one of those Palace, Leeds could have been moved to the Saturday early kickoff that we was talking about. And you put Everton United at 2:00. It's just baffling. I know it's all about TV and stuff like that, but
it does
7:00 on a Sunday. It's just madness, Farley. Now, that's part of the reason actually why I'm picking Everton to win. On Sunday at 11-4, I think again the Goodison fans,
big price.
Everton fans at Goodison, it's going to be a madness. 7:00 on a Sunday night, they're going to have spent the whole day having a few beers. Arsenal, Liverpool, half 4 game. They could have just watched Liverpool get beat at Arsenal. The fans are going to be absolutely buzzing. 11-4 is a massive price. I know maybe I'm looking at that from the point of view where I've just watched United crumble against City last weekend. Obviously, a City side, a different class to the Everton side. We are recording this before Thursday's Europa League games, but we expect United to go on and win in the Europa League. 11-4 again, it just seems like a massive price for Everton, and I definitely wouldn't be going anywhere near United at 19-20, put it that way.
Yeah, I think Everton this year, I think we've slagged, well, not necessarily us particularly, but the whole kind of football media, everybody slags off Frank Lampard as being this tactically naive guy who's just like a nice bloke. I think the criticism of him has been very loud. I think we need to actually take like a minute to say the job he's done this season is really, really good. They're up in 11th. They're
unbeaten in 7 games, Farley.
Yeah, I mean, he's got them playing, and like you can't deny that. They've only conceded 7 goals, as I said. And I think one thing we've definitely spoke about on here before is the signings of Tarkowski and Cody, getting that leadership in, 2 Premier League captains straight into your back 4, back 5. That has done absolutely wonders for them. And I think Gordon as well, huge talent. I really like Everton so much. I went to see them a few years ago. I've only been to Goodison once, sat in the Everton end, watching Leicester in the FA Cup, actually.
Yeah.
So I've got somebody to threaten to kick my head in because they thought I was a Leicester fan. I wasn't. But that stadium, it's a beautiful dump. It's so old school. It's in the middle of a housing estate. There's proper boozers next to it. Chips and gravy everywhere outside. It's just, that to me is like what English football is about. And I just think they're always in the shadow of Liverpool, and I want to see them do well this year. So I'd be well up for seeing Everton win that. I think that'd be hugely entertaining. I think on Sunday night, I'll probably be watching a bit of Red Zone, but I'll get that on another screen as well.
Get it on in the background. Go on then.
So the game I'm going to talk about, it's not on Sunday, even though part of me wants to tip Leeds to beat Palace, which is over 2-1, which I think is a huge price. But instead, I'm going to Monday night, Nottingham Forest versus Villa. I think this is back-to-back Mondays we've had Forest on TV. They are a mess. They are such a mess. it's a weird one. I kind of put a question out on Twitter. I'll put a statement out saying that I think Cooper should leave because it's not doing his reputation any good being there. I don't believe he's signed half these players. I don't think it's up to him. I think it's probably up to this owner. They just look so disjointed. He's playing a mixture of kind of the guys who got him there, a couple of like older guys, especially in defence, with the likes of Renan Lodi, who's obviously coming on loan from Atletico Madrid. They just don't look cohesive. I think in terms of like raw ability, they definitely aren't in the worst 3 squads in the league. But you simply can't. I just don't believe you can ever get that many players to gel. We saw it at Fulham a couple of years back, didn't work. And Aston Villa, as bad as I think they've been this year, they have started to put in a couple of good performances. And at 5-4, I think there's a good price there. And I do think Villa will win. I think Watkins will probably score as well. But yeah, I'd back Villa.
It is
really good price.
it is a bit of a strange game, really, because you feel that. Well, I thought Cooper would have been replaced already, to be honest. I know we saw rumours of Rafa Benitez coming in earlier this week. But on the other side, if Forest go and beat Villa here, does the pressure just heap on Gerrard even more? Like, it'll be an absolute madness, really, if Forest go on and win it. Because that Monday night game, Farley, I know we both watched it, but that was absolutely abysmal. I can't believe how bad Forest were. 5-4 is a big price for Villa. I agree with that massively. I love it.
The thing I find frustrating with Villa, is
no, go on.
When Villa are good, like this season, when they're good, they do actually look pretty handy. But when they're bad, they look horrendous. They look like relegation material. They look so shocking. And that does concern me. And I mean, we've talked about Lampard already. I don't think Gerrard is long for that job, and I don't think he's really proven anything since he's come to Villa. Besides the fact he has some mates in high places and has a big name. Really disappointed with him, to be honest.
Yeah, same, definitely. Now, quickly, just before we do go to Bankers Bust and Draw, just to let you know, as always, some of the winners that we had last week. Again, we had Boz coming out with evens winner, 3-1 card winner. Farley got the winner for Roma to beat Inter last week, 14-5, which was a massive price. We've just had winners all over. So, as we do always say, get the podcast liked, subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on every single channel that you can. Let your mates know about us. Send it out to them. Get them to like us, subscribe to. The numbers help us massively, and the more eyes that we get on here, the more podcasts that we'll do and the more winners that we'll give to you. Talking of winners, and let's just start with Bankers straight away, Farley, because in Bankers Bust and Draw, we both picked different picks for each one, which is always class. Who's your banker for this weekend's fixtures?
It's Man City. It's boring. I wouldn't bet on it myself, but they're a banker, aren't they?
Yeah. I agree. I don't even think there's anything you really need to say about that, to be honest. Let's be clear. City against Southampton looks nailed on. I've gone for Chelsea to be my banker. They've got Wolves at home. I know you were liking the look of Wolves a little bit, I feel, Farley. I feel like something was edging you towards them slightly. Was it more because Chelsea are a bit hit and miss this season? But 1-3, just purely due to Chelsea's performance against AC Milan, I just think they're a banker for me.
I couldn't work out. I was watching the City game, so I only saw kind of highlights of the Chelsea game, I've got to say. But I couldn't work out if Chelsea were really good or if Milan were just woeful.
Yeah.
It looked like a bit of mix when I was kind of looking over at the screen next to me.
No, I think that was true too. I think Tomori had a bit of a stinker, which was bad news for us Tomori fans. Bust for this weekend. I'll go first for my bust. I've gone for United. I can't wax lyrical about Everton and pick Everton to win on Sunday and then not choose United as my bust. 19-20, they're just a shade odds on. I just think I can't back them at that price away at Goodison Park. I think they're my bust for the weekend. Your bust For Saturday's games, it is Farley. Yours is actually. It
Yeah.
shocked me. It shocked me.
This might be a little controversial. I think Newcastle Brentford has bust written all over it. 13-15 if you want to bet on Newcastle. It looks like Isak won't play. He's almost certainly going to miss the game. Brentford, they're only 1 point behind Newcastle this season, despite being 3 points low in the league. And this is a good Brentford team. It really is. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a draw here, to be honest. I don't think Brentford will go out and win it, but I think they could definitely stop Newcastle winning it.
No, I like that. I like the reasoning behind it. Just go straight onto your draw for this weekend for me, Farley, because West Ham, you love picking a West Ham draw. I know we spoke about this before recording, but everything that points towards West Ham usually is a draw, and more of the same this weekend, you reckon?
Yeah, West Ham Fulham, this is the draw. I've got to say, I actually love watching Fulham at the moment. I think they're brilliant. But West Ham, they are draw merchants. I think they've had, actually, to be fair, Leicester. No, wait there. Is that right? No, I'm talking absolute rubbish. They've actually only had one draw this season. But
Okay.
every time I look at West Ham's games, I look at them before and I just think they're so boring and insipid. Moyes is defensive. They don't score that many, maybe one. I feel like they're a team that nearly every single game you're going to get under 2.5 in a draw. Like it's, yeah. So this is another draw for me. Fulham, as impressive as they've been, little trip across London. I think it's just going to be probably a score draw, 1-1.
Just quickly before I give my draw, I'm surprised you haven't given odds for Paulina to be carded for us this week, Farley.
I had to stay away, to be honest, after last week's horror show. Yeah,
well,
that great, was it?
He is 3-1 again to be carded in that game this weekend. So if that does take your fancy away at West Ham, it could well happen. Let's be honest. My draw for the weekend's games is Bournemouth Leicester. That comes on Saturday, and I just think it is a bit of a stinky game, really. Now Leicester, they ran out very convincing winners against Forest on Monday, but on when was it, last Saturday? It was Bournemouth Brentford 0-0. I obviously backed it as overs, and it was the only game on Saturday to not be overs, I think. But Bournemouth just seemed resilient under Gary O'Neill. I think that's part of the reason why they've not looked towards getting a new manager in, to be honest, because defensively they've looked sound, and it may just be a case of Leicester going back to their old self. So that's the draw for this week. Now, usually we go straight into EFL. I think because we are picking draws for the Premier League, we should go straight into having a little look at next week's Champions League games, because the Champions League itself, this season so far, there's not been many games where a lot's gone on, let's be honest, Farley. It's been a little bit, dare I say, average. But this week's games are actually interesting because it's just a complete reverse of the games that we've just seen last week. So I tend to like this little fixture list where it's the third and fourth, because you just get the same teams playing each other. And it seems like you can get some great odds because you've just seen what they're like against each other. Looking at the odds, I've seen something at a decent price straight away. Is there anything that you quickly want to touch on, Farley? Because you might have seen a similar bet to what I've seen.
Does it involve a Spanish team?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Does it involve a Belgian team?
Yes, it does, yes.
Well, I think, why don't you talk about it? Because I think we're talking about the same game here.
Well, I hope we're talking about the same thing, because after watching Bruges, to be fair, you may be thinking, oh, I'm going to completely reverse the score here. I'm going to go for a different thing. But watching Bruges Atletico Madrid last week, I thought Bruges played really well against Atletico, and I'm looking at it now at 6-1. It's a big price now. I don't know if you're seeing Atletico at 4-9 at home and thinking that's a lump job. But for me, 6-1 for Bruges to win is a big price. Now, that Wednesday slot, 5:45, also throws up Napoli against Ajax. Napoli are 3-5 to beat Ajax. which I think is how are they only 3-5 after beating them 6-1 last week? I can't believe that they're not even shorter than that. That little slot there for me just screams double all over it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think. I think I'd go for a draw in the Bruges game.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the way I'd go for it. I think
Atletico though, they're just not themselves at the minute, are they? Let's be honest. Compared to recent years,
no, they don't look good.
No,
I think there are just some really good games though this week, which
yeah.
I think this is the first week I've really been looking forward to. I mean, PSG Benfica, obviously a draw on Wednesday night. You get 9-2 on that happening again, but 7-2 on the Madrid Bruges draw. I love that. Napoli at home to Ajax. Lump job, surely, Napoli?
Yeah, literally got to be, surely.
Barca 4-9 against Inter. I think Inter did well last time, but in front of the new camp. I don't know. Really good slate of games, I've got to say. Really, although we'll end up probably watching a Rangers-Liverpool stinker, won't we, on Wednesday? So.
Yeah, let's be honest. We probably will be have all eyes on that. Rangers fans, if they can get the atmosphere good at Ibrox, can they get a shock result against Liverpool? I doubt it, but stranger things have happened. Let's forget about Europe for a second and come back to the England and the EFL. Just looking at your pick for this weekend, you've gone for a result that seems pretty straightforward to me, Farley, but what in particular do you like about this one?
Yeah, so I think I've picked them a couple of times or gone against them a couple of times. My pick here, Grimsby 5-6 to beat Crawley. Grimsby 13th in League 2, 16 points. Crawley second from bottom, 6 points. They've been pretty bad this year, picking up 1 win, 3 draws. I just think you're getting a near evens price on a team who really should win, especially at home. I just think easy bet, like one of those just to chuck in an acca. And I've got another one for my best bet later on, but I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
Nice. Love that. Quickly in the EFL, I've gone for Luton at 7-2 away to West Brom. West Brom, no winning 8 games. Luton haven't lost in the last 4 games. Steve Bruce, we've spoke about managers under pressure in recent weeks on this podcast. But if Steve Bruce isn't under pressure, then I'm not sure what else is, because West Brom, without a winning 8 games, they're down right around the relegation zone. They're not even be in the relegation zone now, to be honest. They look abysmal. And Steve Bruce, I don't even know what to say about him anymore. I think he's at that point now where his style of football just doesn't fit the English game anymore. And I think that West Brom fans are desperate for him to be sacked. They're absolutely gagging for him to be sacked. All I saw last night was Bruce out all over my timeline on Twitter. And 7-2 for Luton to win away, I think it's just a really, really good price that you don't tend to see in the EFL very often.
Yeah, he's sort of become a meme, hasn't he? And I think once you're in that kind of position, no one's going to take you seriously anymore.
Exactly. Once your head is photoshopped onto a cabbage, then I think you're done. Let's be honest. Farley, do you want to take us on a European tour?
Yeah, so this is the part of the show where we head into the airport. We go through security. Takes a while, just because there's so many migrant workers now have gone back to their own countries. It's an absolute scandal. Obviously, COVID's starting to creep up, so flights are getting delayed. But we eventually get through. We go to duty free, pick up a couple of bits, maybe some perfume, some aftershave. Then we get through to the bar. We go to Wetherspoons, don't we? Of course we do.
Yeah,
what's that? 6 a.m. I'll have a Guinness, please. Then we eventually get on the plane. No legroom whatsoever. Crying baby behind us. But then we eventually reach our destination. And my destination this week is Spain. So, I'm going to have a paella. I'm going to have I don't know what else they have. What do they drink out there? A sol? Is that Spanish or is that Mexican? God knows. I have an Estrella.
Madrid,
anyway,
maybe.
What I'm going to talk about is I think this bet is absolute money. Real Madrid to win and both teams to score. Put simply, Real Madrid, they've I think they've won all but one game this season in La Liga, which they drew. They've actually managed to concede at least one goal. Actually, I think it's conceded exactly one goal in every single La Liga game this season. And now they're on the road at Getafe. Getafe aren't great there. They're near the bottom of the league. But I think this is one Real Madrid will win quite comfortably, but end up just allowing a goal, basically. So it'll be a 3-1, a 4-1, something like that. But you're getting 12-5, which I think is a lovely price. And we'd love a win in both teams to score here. And I believe you're going to take us to another European country for another one.
Yes, I am. So I've actually got on a plane with you, and we're going to go back to the airport in Madrid, and we're going to take another plane over to Germany. And this is arguably the game of the weekend, let's be honest. Dortmund against Bayern Munich, the Klassiker. It should be a cracker once again. 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, so if Brighton against Spurs doesn't take your fancy, you can watch this one instead. Bayern to win and both teams to score is my bet in this one at 6-4 now. Dortmund lost to Cologne, while Bayern won 4-0 last time in the league. Both sides, of course, won emphatically in the Champions League midweek, but Dortmund just don't really seem to be the same side this season now. Obviously, they're missing Erling Haaland, who is a massive loss for them, but on the similar side to Bayern, they're missing Lewandowski, who's equally as big of a loss. But Bayern, after having that little game spell of no winning 4 games, now seem to be kicking on again. And again, the 5-0 win in the Champions League midweek, the 4-0 win in the Bundesliga on the Friday before that. It just seems like more of the same from Bayern, and they're back into getting the wins and just grinding everything out, really, and just really pushing on. And 6-4, it's not a massive price, but in a game where we have always seen goals, it's usually both teams are score and win. I know the score, both teams are scoring no draw bet. I like that in this game usually too, but I just think that Bayern are going to pick this one. And 6-4 is a decent price. Should we double that up for this week, Farley, do you reckon?
Yeah, you're getting about 7.5 to 1, I think, on the double there, which is pretty nice. So that's something. But look, we're now let's stop this metaphor. But we are going to quickly go to France, and you're going to tell us about. Obviously, Boz isn't with us today; he's otherwise engaged. But he obviously had a couple of picks for the Arc, and one of them came in, didn't it, Jake?
One of them did come in, yeah. So the Arc this weekend, or the weekend just gone, sorry, was Boz obviously waxed lyrical about it. He absolutely loves that race. Now, he did pick 2 selections actually for it. So he had Alfa Nista, which eventually ran out around 10-3 winner in that race. And Torque Tasso, excuse the pronunciation of that, who came 3rd in the race too. So we had 2 great runners there, and an each way pick and a winning pick. So, Boz, I know you're not here this week, but we've got to give you a round of applause for a winner in the Arc. Well played. And listen, I know you're going to be listening to us. You better be listening to us. I'm expecting you to come here next week with some massive anti-post pick for Cheltenham. Give us something that me and Farley can just literally stick 5 each way on, forget about it, come to Cheltenham week, and he's come to us like, lads, it's odds on. We're going to get a winner here. We're going to get a winner. That's all I want from you, Buzz. All I want. I'm not asking for much, am I? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you have reached this point and you want to hear a Cheltenham anti-post next week, tweet us at the @oddspod. All we want to hear is hashtag Cheltenham picks now. Yes. No please, no thank you. Cheltenham picks now. That's what, if you do that, we can promise you we'll get him to give us one next week. So please do that. Look, I'm going to take us back to the UK. We've got the NFL London game on Sunday. Giants at Packers, with the Packers being nominally the home team. 2:30 kickoff at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I don't really have any picks for this. Annoyingly, there aren't a huge amount of markets live now in terms of anytime touchdown scorer, which is where I normally do my work. But Romeo Doubs is definitely the guy. When the odds come out, I'd definitely have a look. Or Christian Watson, both 2 rookie receivers for the Packers, who I think could have a big day on Sunday. If either of their odds are over 2-1, Watson's definitely will be. I would definitely have like a small bet on that, I think. But we've got the NBA kicking off in a couple of weeks, and I wanted to talk about the NBA Most Improved Award. We've spoke about it a couple of months ago. I recommended Zion Williamson as a guy to get. His odds were shortened, so if you bet on that, you're probably able to cash out for a profit now. But don't cash out. I think we have a good chance of winning. But I want to add another player that's worth £1. I'd say no more, maybe £2 if you're feeling fruity. Precious Achua of the Toronto Raptors, 100-1 you can get on him to win this award. He's been in the league not that long now, but a little while now. Last year, really poor to start the season. Very good defensively, but poor. The rest of his game bad. After Christmas, started to come good a bit, improved quite a bit. And in pre-season, he has really looks like he's taken on a leap. And there's a lot of talk about the Raptors kind of needing somebody with size, needing someone who's defensively strong, and needing a sort of a good offensive player as well. And it looks like he might take that step and move into that position and lock himself a place in the starting five. And I think at 100-1, this is a price that's already moved in from, I think it's 150 to 100, and it will almost certainly move again if he continues to do well in pre-season or starts the season well. So I think this is one, don't go big. It's 100-1 for a reason, but this is definitely, for my money, should be a short price. So I'd recommend that. So Jake, where are we off to now?
I like it. NBA season kicks off in 2 weeks' time. Is that right?
I want to say it's the 18th, or technically it'll be like the early hours of the 19th.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what we mean.
Cool. Now, usually this is the point where we get Twitter questions, and we talk through a few Twitter questions from you guys. I have had a stinker and not tweeted out asking for questions this week, so that is fully on me. But we've had news this morning, actually, of Kyle Walker being injured. He's had an operation on his groin, and he may potentially miss the World Cup, which is an absolute stinker. I think now's the best time to look into right-back replacements and see if there is any value in the market for any defenders coming into the squad, Farley. With Kyle Walker being injured, is there anyone there you think is a backable price to just put a little bit of a pound, £2 on to get into the squad?
Yeah, so for me, I think this is a huge loss for England. His pace really helps us get out of trouble. I think him and Maguire work really well together. Stones likewise. I think that little bit of pace from Walker allows them not to really be exposed in the same way they might be otherwise. So I think there's a chance he still makes it, but it's not looking good. He's out to 4 to 5 now. I think if he's fit, if he can get back for a couple of weeks before, we'll probably still see him. But from everything I've read, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the most obvious one is Ben White, but you're getting 5 to 6 on him now, which for a guy who wasn't in the last squad, and we have a dearth of right backs, I don't think he's great value. But the one thing I'd say about him is he offers you that same flexibility that Walker does of being a centre back and a right back, or basically being able to play both. James Justin, another guy who could benefit from this. But for me, if I was to bet on any of them, I'd probably go Kyle Walker-Peters at 25-1. He can play right back. He can play left back if needed. Admittedly, I don't really like having right footers playing left back, but he can do it. I think if we didn't have so many good right backs, he'd be in with a shot anyway. But because of his versatility, I do think there's an opportunity for him to come in. But I think realistically, I can't personally see anybody we don't already think of. I think Reece James is a lot for the right side. He might end up playing the right centre back role now with potentially Trips or Alexander-Arnold on the right side. But I don't know. It's a real tough one. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this.
Trent Alexander-Arnold 4 to 9 is not as short as I thought it'd be, to be honest. I thought it'd be looking now similar to what Trippier and James are at 1 to 12, 1 to 20. 4 to 9 still, I can see it shortening up well more than that before the tournament is underway. Just looking through the market.
If Walker doesn't come back, you only have 3 of these 4 sort of top tier right backs.
Yeah.
I think you're then in a position where you have to take Trent. I don't know if you agree.
I think so. Yeah, I agree fully. I think we're in a position where he has to take Trent now anyway, to be honest. But again, the other thing with this market is injuries again. It may be that Trent gets injured before the tournament, as he did in the last World Cup. Reece James, we may see him get injured. Just value for that position is a bit mad. I know you mentioned Ben White because he can play centre back and right back. Joe Gomez, 14-1, he can play centre back and right back. It's just something where he may look to like a James Justin who can play either side 6-1.
That's the question. Like, do you think we always talk about England having this right back problem? Or not problem. It's not a problem at all. But are we potentially looking at it wrong in assigning Walker as a right back when realistically for England, he is a centre half?
Yeah.
So in which case is the value in like a Tomori at evens, for example, or even a Mings 10-1, Kilman 18-1. I think it's probably too late for him, or Tarkowski 16, something like that.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point, and it may be that it's a centre back position that England will be looking to strengthen instead. Like, listen, if we're going to take Conor Cody, why not take Tarkowski if them two are playing well together in that England squad? 16-1, it could be something that Southgate thinks, right, we'll get someone in who is used to playing with Cody or is used to more of a central position. Again, this flap about the right back side is crazy. We've got some of the best right backs in the world. Reece James, on his day, unreal. Trent, I know we've spoke a lot defensively about Trent, but at the end of the day, he's a great right back. Trippier, solid right back. Listen, it's a headache that I don't want. I'm glad it's not me who's got to deal with it. It's Gareth Southgate who's got to deal with it. A lot of the stick that the England fans, including myself, have given Southgate in recent weeks, he's got a tough job, let's be honest. This World Cup is going to be a madness. What do you reckon he's going to do? Who do you reckon he starts? He's got to start Reece James, hasn't he? He's got to start.
Yeah.
He'll likely start Maguire.
Yeah, you start Maguire. I think Reece James has to start. I think he's probably... I'm going to say this. Actually, no, this definitely isn't going to be right because of Hakimi. But I think Reece James is definitely a top 5 right back in the world now. Probably top 3.
Yeah.
Maybe higher up in that as well. I think he's so good. But I think there's value in other places in the England market that there really hasn't been of late. I'm going to give you the guy I think is a huge value pick in a minute, but little question for you. James Maddison, what odds would you want on him going?
In terms of Maddison, I like him, but the fact that he's not been going now is a struggle. But the form that he's in, I'd expect him to be like 1-2.
Yeah, he's 13-8.
So 13-8, is that backable? I'm not sure.
I don't think I would.
I think he's class though.
But the way he's performed, he's just been so good recently. And I think if there is an injury to any of those front guys, I think Southgate needs to... I mean, there's a reason he's not picking him, and it sounds like it's an attitude thing when he's been with England previously. And I do understand one of the reasons England have done so well is this team spirit they have. So I kind of do understand not picking somebody if it's going to ruffle some feathers. But the guy's so good right now. It's hard to explain.
The England market, it's not just the make the squad market that I've looked at. It's the starting 11 lineup too that I've looked at. So Jack Grealish 7-2. If he stays in the form that he's in, could he start for England? Maybe. I'm going to let you know in a secret here, Farley. I've actually had £2 on Jack Grealish to win Sports Personality of the Year this year. 150-1. Yeah. and now he's down to 100-1 because
You're £2
similar
beneath
to
the
Beth
market.
Mead. Beth Mead wasn't expected to be the main player for England women. Beth Mead came in and made it her own. And if Harry Kane doesn't fire, but someone like Grealish does come in and fire, the British public will warm to Jack Grealish. We know that kids up and down the country love Jack Grealish after summer. We had Alice bands everywhere. It may be that someone like Grealish does come in and take over from Harry Kane. Harry Kane will start and he'll take penalties. Will he be the key player? Maybe not. But the starting, the market for the starting 11 is also where there's a bit of value. Again, Jack Grealish at 72. If there is an injury in that forward line, he may come in and start. Different players may come in and start. Trent's 72 to start at the World Cup. We're not asking for injuries, but injuries do happen. It may be that Trent is forced into starting at right back. It's just some of the markets that are available for England are crazy, and it's definitely one that over the next few weeks, me and Farley will be going into further with Boz.
Yeah, and I want to ask you another question. Who do you think is more likely to go to the World Cup, Jadon Sancho or Ollie Watkins?
You've got to say Sancho, surely.
I think Sancho is the better player. He's 2 to 7 to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's far too short. I think he should be in the squad, but I don't really see enough from recent squads to think that he's really that high up in the list. I think Rashford at 4 to 11 is more likely to get a recall than Sancho. But you can get Ollie Watkins at 20 to 1 to make the squad, which for a guy who's been in, I know he wasn't in the last England squad, but he's been in a lot of England squads. He is trusted by Southgate as the kind of backup. And I think he does offer. Sorry, that is my doorbell going off. I'm going to ignore that. He does offer a good opportunity because Ivan Toney's 2 to 5. I don't know if Southgate really trusts him, and I don't know if he'll bring him in for the World Cup. I would say Watkins at 20 to 1 has as much chance as a Tony. So that's where that's probably the outsider I'd go for at 20 to 1.
It's the market that we'll discuss more and more in the upcoming weeks. There's going to be changes, let's be honest, and we're only a month and a little bit away from the actual first game of the World Cup, which we can't wait for. So what we'll do is to wrap up the show, as always, we'll go for our best bets for the weekend. So the weekend double it is this week because obviously Boz isn't here. But looking at from the outside already, it looks like a very good price. Farley, do you want to start with your pick, your best bet for the weekend sport? What are you putting your cards all out on the table for?
Yeah, this is a team. I'll just say it's Plymouth Argyle, my team. 4 to 5. We're playing Accrington Stanley at Fortress Home Park.
Who are they?
Yeah, who are they? So what I've kind of in the past maybe put a bit of cool water on Argyle, but we have been so good recently. Our home record is phenomenal. We've I think played everybody in the top 8 so far this season, and we've dropped 2 points. Like we're playing so well. Accrington Stanley, they are 9th, so just outside of that. But I think them coming to Home Park, this is a game we should be winning at 4 to 5. Definitely definitely get on that, I think.
Yeah, 4 to 5 is a great price. And again, with you being a Plymouth fan, I've kept an eye on their results and been impressed by them. Chef Wednesday win midweek was just crazy. Massive result. And the Wycombe win last week, which I did tip.
You did?
Is a madness too. Again, Plymouth rarely, if ever, win at Wycombe. It's just not something that happens. And this side this season just seem to be pushing down every single wall that comes to them, which is good. My pick for the double, I spoke about it earlier in the podcast, but I'm going for Brighton to win against Spurs. 9 to 5. It's a big price against a Spurs side who again struggled earlier this week in the Champions League. I know the sad news has come out today that one of the main trainers and physios in the squad has passed away, and the Spurs side have got the day off from training today as part of the mourning process behind that. Is that something that may be on their minds going into this game on Saturday? Brighton to win again 9 to 5. it's just a massive price after that game against Liverpool last week, where they'll come into this one with a lot of confidence. That double Farley, what's that coming back at?
4-1.
4-1. I mean,
Price.
it's not the biggest bets. If Boz was here, it'd probably be 4.1-1 because he'd tip like a 1-2.
He's going to be angry when he hears that.
Yeah, he'll be mad at that. But it's still a very good price at 4-1, and it's something that you can sit back on Saturday, relax, and watch that come in, hopefully. So before we do go, again, just a last little mention, just to like, subscribe, follow us on every platform. We're available on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all over the gaff. Anywhere you want to follow us, we'll be there. Don't follow us in real life, obviously. We don't want to see you following Farley around on the streets of London. But give us a follow on our socials. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up, Farley?
Just yet, quick reminder, @OddsPod, tweet us, hashtag Cheltenham Picks now. And our very own Sam Boswell would do his best to give you an anti-post selection next week when we welcome him back with open arms.
Picks now. So again, Farley, @OddsPod on all platforms. We've got a massive week ahead, and I can't wait for next week too, when we'll be coming back with Boz here. Boz not being able to take the mick out of us because we've not had any winners, because we're going to have winner after winner after winner this week. All right. So everyone, thank you very much again for listening. Follow our socials again, and thank you very much. See you later.